In previous video, we deployed this Dockerized application. Today, we will modify the source code and then let's see how that change will reflect here. So let's modify the source code. So I'm going to modify this server.js file. So vi server.js. So I have modified this line here. Instead of my channel goal, I have added as my course goal. Then I'm going to save this file. So here, instead of my channel goal, it should change it to my course goal. So how that change will reflect here? I just refresh this page, but still it is my channel goal only. So just refreshing the page will not work. Now let's try stop and starting the container. So for stopping the container, I have the command docker stop and the container ID. So first I have to have the container ID. For that I can run docker ps. So docker ps means docker processes. So it will list the all running containers, not stopped containers, only running containers it will list. So I will copy this container ID now. Then I will run docker stop that particular container ID. So container is stopped now, and if I check on my browser page also, I get this site can't be reached page. Now let's start this container and let's see my source code changes are reflecting or not in my application. So for starting the container, I can run docker start and the same container ID. It started the container. Let's see that in browser also. So it started. But here you can see the content is my channel goal only. It's not changed to my course goal. So source code change is not reflecting here, even after stopping and starting the container. So let's create a new container from the image and see whether that reflects my changes or not. So to create a container, I have to run docker run -p and the host port, that is 3000, and container port or application port, that is 80. Then the image ID. So image ID, I can get it from dockerimages command I can run. Then it will list all the images. There I can get the docker image ideas. So I have created a new container now. Now let's refresh this page. So it is still giving my channel goal only, not my course goal. So changes are not reflecting, even when I create a new container from the image. So what's happening here? So when I check my Docker file, I explained cmd will run while creating the container, but all other instruction will run or execute while creating the image. So copy code is one of the instruction here, and that executes while creating the image. So while creating the image, whatever the code is here, it will copy that code only. So if I modify any file here, I have to execute this copy instruction again. So to execute this instruction or Docker file, I have to create a new image from this particular Docker file. So let me create a new image now. So to create image, I have the command docker build and the Docker file path, that is dot. So it created a new image. Let me list that image. So this is the new image created 15 seconds ago. Let me copy this image ID and let me create a new container from this particular image. So before creating the container, let me stop the previous container. I have stopped the previous container now, and I am getting site can't be reached page. So now let me create a container from the new image. For that, docker run -p, the host port 3000 and the container port is 80, and the new image ID. Now if I go to browser and refresh this page, now I am getting my course goal here. So my changes are reflecting. So whenever I modify my source code, to reflect that, I have to create a new image from my Docker file. So once the image is created, it is read only and the image is locked. You can't modify or write anything to the images, but you can modify the containers. So now let me explain the layers in Docker image. Now if I check my Docker file here, each instruction will be a layer. So Docker image is nothing but group or stack of these layers, and these layers will help in caching. So for example, here from node is one layer, and if you build another image and that also uses the from node instruction, then Docker can reuse this layer, and that will speed up the build process. So that's how caching works here. So similarly, copy code also one layer here. So if the code is not changed, it will not rebuild again, it will use the cache. Similarly, if the package.json file is not changed, there is no need to execute npm install command again. So it will save a lot of build time. So these layers can be reused. And one important note here, order matters here in Docker file. For example, there are some code changes. Then Docker will rebuild this copy layer as well as all the subsequent layers. That means it will execute again work directory, npm install, all these instructions. So if you place instruction that change frequently early in the Docker file, then subsequent layers also will need to be rebuilt frequently. So that means it will slow down your build process. So as a best practice, you have to place instruction that changes frequently at the end of the Docker file. So that's it about Docker layer and caching. Also, you can check the layers of the image using docker image inspect command. Command will be docker image inspect and the image ID. So it will show all the layers used in this particular image. So that's it for today's video. So in this video, we have modified the source code first. Then we learned about Docker start and stop, and Docker PS that is used for listing the running container. Then we recreated the image. Then we learned about layer and caching in Docker image. Then we learned about Docker inspect. So subscribe and check out other videos too, and keep learning.